Hey, Dr. Derek Nielsen here, the owner of Kaizen Physical Therapy. This is my brother, Corey. He's a personal trainer here in Durham, North Carolina. Today I want to talk about and tell you why osteoarthritis is not the cause of your pain. Corey, how often do you hear your clients come to you and say arthritis is causing them pain?
I hear it quite frequently. I mean, arthritis is very common. Pain is very common. They've been linked together. So, yeah, to answer your question, quite frequently. Why?
I see it all the time, and I hear it all the time. And let me guess your story. You started having pain. You decided that you were ready to do something about it. You went to your doctor, whether that be an orthopedic surgeon or primary care or MD, and they ended up taking an image. They ended up taking an x-ray of your back or your hip or your spine, wherever your pain's at, and they told you you've got osteoarthritis, and that's causing your pain. Then they decided to give you either an injection or some sort of pain meds, of which you'd rather not take because you know it's just masking the pain and it's not a real long-term solution. But what other option do you have? Because there's no cure for arthritis anyways. Well, that's the story that I typically hear here in the clinic, and people want to avoid all of that. And I'm here to tell you that osteoarthritis isn't causing you pain. It just happens to be something that you can see on the x-ray. Corey, realize that you can't see pain. So if I take an image of your spine or I take an image of your hip, I can't see pain. All I can see is what's on that image, and it happens to be that there's arthritis on the image, and that magnificently gets the blame. Now, somewhere between the ages of 40 to 55 is the time in our lives where the majority of us suffer from pain. Yet, majority of us have arthritis the older we get. It's not a matter of if you're going to get it, it's a matter of when. And the older you get, the more likely you are to have it. But yet, the older you get, the more likely you aren't to have pain. So if osteoarthritis was truly the cause of pain, everybody would be in pain the older that they got.
So let me interject and let me kind of break this down and say how I think what you're saying. So I get pain, I go and get an MRI, right? I see the arthritis, but basically healthcare system doesn't completely know what's causing your pain because you can't see it. But they got to blame something.
Right.
Right? They got to pinpoint something and say, oh, it's that right there. When what you're telling me is you can't see pain, so you can't look on an MRI and say, oh, it's this exact spot, let's treat that thing, unless it's like a broken bone, obviously, right?
Right.
And so, okay, well, now that I know that, hey, an MRI doesn't tell me exactly what is going on with the pain, and arthritis, I get more arthritis as I age, but I don't necessarily get more pain as I get older and older and older. Okay, so then what is the solution? What are you saying? What's my solution?
Well, the solution is finding somebody, and it could be me or somebody else, but you have to find somebody that looks at movement. Because the area that hurts, oftentimes the area that hurts isn't even the problem. It's in pain because it's overworked. And it's overworked because somewhere else in the body isn't working like it should. Now, I see all the time people come into me with low back pain, and it's not even a low back problem. It's a hip problem. If the hips aren't moving as well as they should, somewhere else has to move more to make up that difference as you move throughout the day. And that happens to be the low back. The low back starts hurting because it's overworked, but the real problem's in the hips. This type of scenario happens all over the body. So you've got to find somebody that knows movement and not just looks at the area of pain, because it's usually not the problem unless there was an accident, some sort of fall, car accident,
broken bone or
broken bone, then we know what the cause of the pain is. But traditionally, pain came on gradually, then it's you've got to look at full body movement, and it's not osteoarthritis that's causing it.
Right, because what you're saying is that the whole body is a chain.
Right.
And if something isn't moving well, it affects the things above it, it affects the things below it.
Right.
And just because I feel low back pain doesn't necessarily mean that low back is the problem. It just means my low back could be being overworked because my hip isn't doing what it should, or my upper back isn't doing what it should, or whatever that is.
Right.
And so what you're saying is, in order for me to get a long-term solution, I've got to fix my faulty movement patterns so that I've got these joints and muscles that aren't being overworked.
Correct.
Makes sense.
Yep. And you have to look at the entire body. You got to find somebody that looks at the entire body, not just the area that hurts.